Everybody, this is Richard, and welcome to session 2 of Gaunt Marches, Desire to Despond. This is a short Dungeon World series, part of the Gaunt Marches ongoing shared world campaign, and the series is just part of that ongoing campaign. Other sessions are being run by Spencer Paskett this month, and starting next month with Horst Wurst in the Gaunt Marches zone, which is being designed by members of the Gauntlet community. With me today, I have several returning players from last week and a brand new character run by Bethany Harvey. But I'm going to start with Stephen Carnes, who can introduce us to his character, Yon.
Yep. Hi. Yon is a female witch. She is often in and around the town here, acquiring alchemical ingredients for her potions and things, but she's also kind of hiding out here at the moment as she's run afoul of some organized crime syndicate in one of the surrounding towns. She's a bit creepy. She has a familiar, which is a large millipede that hangs out on or around her, on her body, and sort of in her mouth or ears at times in ways that make people very uncomfortable. But at the moment, it is gone gathering information for me.
That is correct. And what are your flags, Yon? And I'm saying that correctly, Yon, right?
There's a hint of an accent on the E, so it's like Yona.
Yona.
Yeah. I don't exactly remember. Refuse my aid only because my ways are strange to you. Point out a flaw or secret in another person which I can exploit. Defer to me when dealing with polite society.
Okay, thank you. And Brita, played by Kat.
Brita Halmhersdotter is a paladin. She did some bad things a long time ago, which is why she's a paladin now. And she is in Goatbridge looking for a little girl who is the only survivor of a village that sank into the mud. And the only three words this child said was, "Find Brita's Halmhersdotter." So that's why I'm here.
And what flags does Brita have?
Brita has get me to speak of my life beyond our mission, because she's taciturn and is also a member of a monastic order of some kind. Side with me on a course of action which does not involve bloodshed, because I'm that kind of paladin. And offer me an easier solution that I must refuse on principle, because I'm also that kind of paladin.
Awesome. Kat, thank you. And I think our next person is Raven. Raven, played by Kyle. Could you introduce us?
Yeah. So Raven is a shapeshifter. Wears a lot of masks at different times. They are currently impersonating Robert, who's an envoy of some bigger city nearby. So she's doing that because it facilitates lots of travel and all that stuff. The real Robert is alive and well, and Raven is just sending bundles of cash to him from time to time, and he's living the good life while she does his job. Raven is looking for their sister, who they traveled quite extensively together, and got separated. So she had a letter that's kind of tying her to the events that are kind of going on. And Raven's just happy to get out of town either way, even if it comes to nothing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So let's recap a little about what happened last time. Mainly, we spent time creating characters and asking questions, but we got about an hour of sort of village in and of time in the village of Goatsbridge. We have a volunteer and it looks like we've got Dylan. And I'm actually going to ask, once Dylan signs on, I'm going to ask him to introduce his character. Hey, Dylan, how are you?
I'm so sorry to keep you all waiting.
No, we are actually on. And so we're going to ask you to go ahead and introduce us to Steeder.
Steeder is a humanoid pile of salvage, barely concealing a youngish man who's grown up in the region and who busies himself daily hauling stuff out of the mud and trying to distribute it to people who might find it useful. And these folks down at the bottom of the Google Hangout are the people who he is most excited when he is able to please.
Nice. All right. So Bethany is with us today, playing a character named Ellis, and we're going to introduce Ellis at a dramatically appropriate moment very soon. But right now, I wanted to see if I could get a volunteer to recap very briefly what happened last time.
I'll do my best.
Oh, Stephen, thank you.
We discovered, actually, other members of the party outside of Yona discovered that there were some people missing. Breda, as she mentioned earlier, is looking for a young girl who had gone missing, and I believe it was Raven who had a colleague who had also they had woken up in the morning and found their colleague had absconded, and
that was Brother Galleon.
Oh, that was
Brother
Galleon.
Galleon,
Excuse
yeah.
me. So yes, brother Galleon had lost. Oh, that's right, because it was a member of their monastic order had gone missing. The witch was consulted, and she used divination to gain some information about their whereabouts, and discovered that their disappearances were related. Breda has an unusual sort of mark on her neck that has yet to be fully explained, but we feel that the mark and the disappearances are all related, and all signs, I believe, thus far are pointing in the direction of the swamp. What'd I miss?
Any details anybody wants to add, chime in with?
The mark that was placed on me was incomplete in some way, possibly because of my paladin hood. Who knows? That's a question. And apparently, the mark means that that whatever's in the swamp is marking people, that they owe them in some way. And I apparently owe some Fae some debts that I don't remember, but that's fine. That doesn't mean I'm not going to pay them. I'm a paladin.
Anything else anybody wants to add that we may be leaving out?
There was the town of was it Swineford?
Yeah.
Yep, that was consumed by the swamp, was sunk into the swamp without explanation, and only the library is still standing. There's also a godling in the swamp somewhere near Swineford that we don't know too much information about.
Okay. Kyle, Dylan, anything you want to add in character, out of character?
I think those are. I don't think there's anything notable. I think we hit them all.
Right.
Yeah, likewise.
Okay. So the last place you were all together was the hotel or the inn where you were in the room that Yona rents, where Yona was giving you a divination, and then asked some follow-up questions about that divination, sending her familiar away. And what was it your familiar was looking for, Yona?
It was mechanically it was a spout lore roll,
Okay.
but the information was regarding. I remember. It was to see if I recognized the symbol that is the mark that it was on Breda, and I believe that mark was also on Talon, on something on their person.
There were similar marks, but they had a sort of similar structure, but they were distinct.
Yeah, so I was wondering if I recognized the iconography, the monogram, or whatever it is, as being representative of a particular group or religious order.
Right. And what did you learn with your divination question?
The question was whether or not the disappearances of Meg and Talon were related, and the answer to that was yes. And then I also had a follow-up question, which we had not posed as a group, I don't believe.
Right. And I think that was the question you actually sent your familiar into.
Mechanically, those were from two different roles. One was divination and one was spout lore. So even if I fail on a spout lore roll, I can spend some health to have my familiar go seek out the answer.
Right.
So that is what it is doing at the moment. But I believe we still had a follow-up question to the divination spell, related
that was not addressed. So.
Correct. Related to the disappearance of Meg and Talon.
All right. So what I'd like to do is get just a brief sort of montage of what you are doing, each of you, to get ready for this trip into the swamp where you don't have a clear destination in mind. What are you doing to sort of prepare yourself for this trip? And what are you planning and preparing for? And let's start with the person who is most prepared to head out into the swamp. Our dungeoneer, Steeder.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is enthusiastically throw my hands up in the air and say, "Don't worry, friends. I'll get us everything we need, and I'll meet you downstairs." And then I charge off into the market and just start going over to every stall that I can find where they sell just the most ridiculous garbage. 10-foot poles. I have lots of them. Obscure sort of boot connections that function like snowshoes. All of the things that I'm going to use to show off my swamp foo. And I start accumulating a large pile of this stuff, half of it borrowed, half of it leased, in front of the inn, so that when everyone comes down, all of their kind of swamp gear is ready for them.
All right. Dylan, I'm going to have you make a move in just a moment, but I'm going to check a couple of things real quick. So you actually don't have a lot of coin on you, as is, you recently got back from that trip to Eelton, and I'm sorry, I'm moving around the folder that I organized. I'm losing things in, so I apologize. So Dylan, I want to see if, Steeder, I want to have you roll as you're in the market. You're gonna make a supply roll because you're off to buy a few things. And Steeder, I want you to roll with charisma.
Right, because I'm going to wheedle and borrow anything that
Oh
I can't
yeah,
outright afford. All right, so that's a 0 modifier. Hey, boxcars.
really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Hey.
Um,
Sorry, I'm going old school with these with the dice today.
that is fantastic. Steeder, it's taken everything you've got, but you found a fantastic deal on adventuring gear. And you have 5 more uses of adventuring gear. So you can up your adventuring gear uses. I think you have 5 already on your character sheet, so you can bump that up to 10, or whatever plus 5 of that is. I wasn't glancing at the character sheet at that moment. And Steeder, as you're getting ready in the inn lobby, this is not taken as long as you thought to sort of assemble this kind of stack of supplies. How long has it been since you took this many people into the swamp with you?
I'm probably excited because I'm sure I've never taken this many people in. And when I go in, I'm mostly on my own. So this is the culmination of a very big, exciting process for Steeder because he's getting to lead a party and he feels like it's a step in the right direction.
That's awesome. You know, part of you is not certain that this is exactly the right amount of gear for an expedition of 6 people into the swamp. But you turn away for a moment. I think when you turn your back, you check a couple of things. You have 5. Sorry. You have there's a bag of on the table that you didn't put there. It's a cloth sort of like bag made of something soft. And inside it are a whole variety of fruits and some dried meats. Some baked oat cakes, both of the pleasant variety and of the hard pack, pressed down and rebaked over and over again variety. And even a little bit of that honey wine, and it's in a bag, and the bag looks like 2 sacks that were torn in half and then sewn back together as one, and one is kind of a sooty black or gray color, and one is white, and both sides of it have a red star etched in to both sides of the bag. There's no note.
Put down next to where I'm collecting the gear.
Yeah, actually, you can just say that you have 5 extra uses of dungeon rations mechanically.
Who else is in that area with me? Do I spot someone
at this
whose
point in the
possession
morning,
this might be?
there's a bunch of drunks at the bar. Or sorry, there's a bunch of people getting drunk at the bar.
Aspirational drunks.
People who are aspiring to forget the fact that they had a rough night of it, or perhaps to delay the onset of a hangover by continuing on through the morning without stopping. But they're not really near where you're setting up. They're busy sort of telling their troubles to the bartender. And there's not anybody that you see there.
Well, Steer does have debts that you didn't realize you were taking on firmly in mind, so he kind of comically and exaggeratedly leans over towards the bag as if it might bite him at any moment, and kind of poke it with a nearby implement and try and assess whether there's anything unusual or eldritch or suspicious looking about it.
Not seem to be much. So you're sort of going through it.
No, I'm treating it like it's a live snake that might attach itself to my face at any moment. So I'm kind of poking it and generally acting very weird.
Would you like to roll with wisdom?
Okay, I got a 10.
Feel free to
Sorry,
ask
with
me.
wisdom, yeah, that's a 10 flat.
Awesome. Would you like to ask me now or in the roughly approximate near future, as you're looking at this bag, three questions off that Discern Realities list?
Alrighty.
And it would be related to you looking at this bag.
Right.
And I will not give you a snarky answer on what happened here recently.
Okay.
They may not be like, long narratives, but you're not going to get a snarky answer on what happened here recently. So.
Well, I do believe in taking things that are offered me, so I will ask the first question: what happened here recently?
Okay. As you turned around, you noticed that the door of the inn was ajar, and it was closed the last time you glanced at it. And you were standing on the other side of this table, sort of getting things in order, when you turned around and then turned back. So it seems possible that someone was standing there and then scuttled out of the inn very, very, very quietly, which meant it would have to be someone very, very sneaky and or someone very, very small who left it there and scuttled away. You never had the stairs out of your line of sight, though, so no one came down or went up the stairs since you've been sort of regathering your supplies.
Okay, I'd like to ask as my second question, and I'm going to do this while poking around the bag and trying to get a sense of its origin or derivation. Who or what is in control here?
You have gotten mysterious gifts in the swamp before, I think. But is this the first time you've gotten a mysterious gift in town?
Yeah, I think so. I think very much in Steeda's mind, these two places operate by different rules.
Right. But you've had strangers in the town recently, odd strangers. You're very certain that if you take this bag of food for yourself or others, you're going to owe these odd strangers with star emblems a debt.
Does this remind me anything or does this remind me at all of the gear or the containers that those two strange children who come out of the swamp have carried their gear in?
Not necessarily their gear, but certainly their names. One is a red star against a morning sky, and one is a red star against a night sky.
Well, I think I'm going to save my third question. I'm going to bound up the stairs 2 or 3 at a time, and I'm going to see who the first person that I run into from our group is.
Okay.
And I'm going to excitedly call them in and tell them what I think I found. Fairy gifts, friends.
So let's cut and see. Brita, what is the thing you're doing to get ready to leave town? To go into the swamp, and you're not really sure where you're headed or how long you'll be gone, but you've gone into the swamp before.
Yeah, it didn't work out so well though. But faith will guide me, and where faith fails, then honest hard work will make up the lack. That's what I keep telling myself. I think Brita is finishing up some work at the blacksmith she's been staying at.
Mm-hmm.
So she's working the forge and helping actually hammer the iron, since she seems to know what she's doing with a hammer and a forge.
And this was Old Tom the Smith, am I correct?
I think so.
All right,
sure.
Yeah.
Old Tom the Smith, yeah.
How many days in the past, say, few since you've been in town, has Old Tom gone to bed in his cups and woken up in a foul mood?
Well, it's not polite to count, but it's been almost every night.
And he seems to be, when you arrive, he seems to be very focused on his apprentice. And he's yelling at him something about, no, you can pick up the hammer again when you learn to do a thing right. And the kid who's fairly sizable, young guy named Young Tom, is kind of standing off to the side of the smithy with sort of a surprise, sort of, is this happening to me look on his face. What are you coming to get?
I think my backpack of rations and the one change of shift I have, and of course my shield and sword, which are jammed up on the back of the pack, because of course I don't use them, and the armor's inside in good care, but not worn because we're not there yet, right?
Right. And Young Tom, I think, sees you, unless you're trying to be very subtle. I think Young Tom sees you with your pack, and it's just like, leaving.
Yes.
And he gives you kind of a wide-eyed, desperate look. Is Old Tom just sort of like eyes you out of the corner of his eye. And looks back at Young Tom and is like, you won't have Brita to do your chores in the morning anymore, so it's one more thing that's going to be screwed up.
Thomas.
Yeah?
You should be civil to the young lad. He does good work. Thomas.
I suppose at the end of this trip, you're going to want work and a place to stay again if you come back here.
I have been honored to look over your place while you were asleep and help with the forge. If you would prefer me not to do so. I will not return, but that does not change that you should be nicer to your apprentice. The lad cannot learn skill and craft at the end of a harangue.
I'll keep that in mind.
How much hotter, Tom, the fire of wrath inside you than your own forge? If that fire were but truth, you would not feel the need for anger.
My apprentice would learn to use a hammer properly, then I wouldn't feel a hammer going off in my head.
I've seen the lad use a hammer. He knows its skill and use. As for you, if you would drink less, you would have less of a headache in the morning.
Well, good luck to you in your quest.
Luck shall not enter into it. It shall be as it is meant to be. Have I mentioned I'm basically playing female Max von Sydow? I don't know if that's coming through yet.
He makes a... It's not a ward against the evil eye for yourself. It's a ward against the evil eye for other people. So it's sort of like a little sort of like when someone you know is heading off on a journey, you make the sign to sort of like tell anyone who's going to put the evil eye on them to go away.
Wait, so he's trying to ward me or ward me away?
Ward you.
Okay.
So it's a little it's like a travel blessing, but he seems to be offering it in a sort of grudging way.
I thank you again for your hospitality and your good intention.
Well, I thank you again for your good and honest, talented work.
I just put a hand on young Tom as I turn away from like, and then I leave.
Raven, last task you're planning to do. You had not frequently left town except on specific trips to go places, and this is you getting tired of exhaustive identity, I believe you said last time. Is that right? The Robert identity.
Sorry, what is it?
This was you getting tired of the Robert identity and deciding to have an adventure.
Well, I think.
Correct me, please.
I mean that is true, but I think Raven sees the usefulness in the Robert identity.
Right.
So I think that they go to like the proper office and like file all the paperwork to like go on this excursion or whatever, and like send off the letters to whoever.
So you're not gonna risk losing. You're taking less of a risk in losing the Robert identity.
Yeah, I mean, if it came to it, she would, because it's just one of many masks. But yeah.
Right. Okay. Ellis, are you a native to the town of Goatbridge? Or are you visiting?
Both. I'm originally from Goatbridge. I left for a while, and I've recently come back.
And I'd like you and Raven together to agree on this. The nearest big city is Eelton. do you feel like you'd spent some time in Eelton?
Yeah, I think that's where I've been for the past several years.
Okay.
And I've just recently returned.
Sorry, I lost my place in the question. You see someone you know from Eelton, but it's not Robert. Like you and Raven to agree, or you offered a response in Raven. I want to see if that fits you, or if you need to make some changes to it. You know that this person is not the envoy of Eelton, the person who comes out to collect taxes and which no one has really established Eelton has the authority to do, but they do it anyway. Collect taxes and extend the laws of Eelton into the untamed swamp region towns. You know this is someone you know from Eelton, a wizard named, or a mage named Raven, a shape-shifting mage. What is the thing that gives it away for you as someone who's met Raven, or who knows Raven? And again, Raven, I want you to have, you'll have a feedback, veto, input power over this as well. But I want
to. Maybe they have like a tattoo or something that doesn't change, along with the, like it's always there in some form, or.
Raven, what's your thoughts on that? Is there something like that, or would it be something else?
No, I think that could totally work. I think if that was the case, it would be like purposefully covered. So maybe it was a slip up, and something that Ellis picked out.
Slip ups on that kind of thing are frequently a sign that you're getting exhausted. What is the tattoo? And where is it?
I was thinking like the back of the neck, kind of like going down the back.
Mm-hmm.
Probably like spirally type stuff.
And what is it of?
I don't think it's anything in particular. I think it's like symbols and patterns, and it probably looks similar to a sun.
It's really magey.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's not something an envoy would normally wear. You, I think, at the same time, Raven, recognize Ellis. How do the two of you know each other? And that's a question for either one of you.
So is Raven actually from Goatbridge or
Eelton?
Eelton. Okay. Oh, okay. Yes. So when I first went to Eelton, I felt kind of like a dumb hick from Goatbridge, right? And so I decided I wanted to learn to read, and I probably ran into them like at some like a library or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Raven, how does that sound? Raven is not always known for generosity, I don't think. What is it sounded like?
No.
What about Ellis drew your attention?
Well, I think Raven is like not super physically adept or good at stuff. So I think they're constantly on the lookout for people who might prove to be good travel companions. So I think they have like a vetting process where they like pick a person and then like study them and kind of like interact with them as different people throughout like the course of a week. So I think that probably happened with Ellis, and
Okay.
they probably eventually clued in, to the same tattoos and put it all together.
Ellis is fairly sharp-eyed, and you have a hawk.
Yeah.
Which certainly seems to suggest a certain hawkishness of soul. I won't have you do the whole conversation because I want to catch up with Yona really quick. But Ellis, Raven, why do you suggest that Ellis join you on this journey?
Ellis is from Goatbridge, right?
Originally, yes, and is a ranger.
Yeah. I think when Raven, spots them in a crowd, walks over and says, like, Ellis, it's been a while, like, great to see you. And I have great news. There's an exciting adventure about to happen, right to your stomping grounds.
Well, that works out really well for me. I was just thinking of leaving. When are you headed out?
People are supplying. I imagine soon, but I guess we'll keep our eyes peeled. But the pay's not promised to be good, but I'll see what I can pull with my mask here. We might all be able to be well reimbursed. P.S. I don't know what drives Ellis, so maybe nothing.
Ellis, what is it about this trip that makes it compelling?
I think I've already decided, like, it's time to move on, and it's like this gives me a convenient excuse. So, like, as long as there wasn't anything really that I just, like, couldn't condone at all involved,
right?
Then yeah, sure, why not? I don't even care if they pay me. I'm not gonna tell them that.
All right. Yona, what is it you're doing to get ready?
I think, if I may, I'd like to trigger one of Steeder's flags and seek out his knowledge about the swamp. I think that Yona is she knows enough about the swamp to kind of stay relatively close to well-traveled paths to get her to get her herbs and roots and things. And if she requires anything that would warrant a more dangerous venture into the swamp, then she would ask Steeder to just get it for her, because she very much prefers the comfort and safety of civilization. But as it seems that she'll be traveling into the wilderness, I think that she would want to seek out his advice about what to be on the lookout for. And she would be doing this quite begrudgingly, so she wants to make sure that she has some knowledge of what to be on the lookout for.
Sure, let's have that scene. So Steeder is downstairs. What would you your Steeder's downstairs getting ready. I think as you come downstairs, he's poking out a bag of provisions. Or you were heading upstairs, right, Steeder?
Yeah, I'd wanted to bring someone else in, so.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So I think you come close to running into each other on the staircase.
Ah, this is Yona.
Yes, Steeder. I'm a concerned about this venture into the swamp. As you know, I tend to not fare well in the wilder areas of the world. I prefer to be as close to a feather bed as I can be at all times. You being a well-traveled man, what what advice might you be able to give me for what to be on the lookout for as we venture into this untamed land?
Well, Mistress Yona, I've got everything that I think we'll need. I have mud boots. I have sticks for poking at snake holes. I have cream for the swamp fugue egg.
There's a
pustules.
swamp fugue?
Swamp fugue egg pustules. It's a complex disease, many stages. But
this is exactly what I'm talking about. That sounds absolutely abhorrent.
But see this enormous pile of the products and the wares of the town's finest merchants. I have managed to get us everything that I think we need. What I was hoping to talk to you about, though, is our itinerary. You see, I know that you prefer the roads, and I know that getting back to all the high folks here in town is important to you. But the more I think about this missing child, the more I think we're going to have to go to places in the slough where people get lost, where they might seek out a bargain, implicit or explicit, to help them get back home. Because we know that Breda, the paladin, was lost, perhaps when she was marked. And we know that the child Meg may have gotten lost as well. So I think we are going to have to break off the roads a bit, and I've picked our gear accordingly.
Well, I appreciate your level of preparation. I will say this. You and I have had a long-standing business relationship, and I like to think that I have always compensated you well for any work that you have done on my behalf. I would appreciate if you were to keep an extra eye out for any members of the party that I would be directed in my direction. Do we have an agreement?
Extra members of the party that could be pointed in your direction. I'm sorry, Mistress Yona, I don't understand.
Look, if you're gonna use your particular talents to keep any people in the party safer than any other people in the party, I would like the people that you are keeping safer to be me.
Yes, of course.
I will kick you down some money if you keep an eye cast in my direction when things get dangerous. This is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You'll be my first priority, madam.
Thank you so much.
If I may, though, ask you about this bag.
Oh, certainly. Where this is part of your provisions for the journey?
I think it might be more than that. In fact, if you don't mind.
At this point, you hear someone clear their throat. Did you guys have this conversation just standing at the top of the stairs? Did you move into the upstairs? Did you stroll downstairs? Sort of, what was your positioning?
I pictured it as like, yeah, kind of halfway. Yeah, like at the landing at the top of the stairs.
Steeder's at the top of the stairs, and you're coming around the corner.
Yeah.
Does that sound right to you, Steeder?
Absolutely. He's awkward enough that he would not think to get off the stairs to have the conversation. He's probably just exactly where he ran into Yona.
Yona, you hear a voice you hear often at the inn. And it's a small clearing of throat. And the sound of sort of a gloved hand, just sort of lightly brushing at some dust. And you hear Hamza's voice say, so who's looking out for everybody else?
I don't worry that other people need looking out for. I know myself. I know my limitations. I know my desire for comfort and my desire to not be killed and left for dead in a bug-infested swamp. So I'm taking the necessary precautions. What business is it of yours anyway?
I'm sorry, I was just curious.
Yes.
May I ask where you're headed? I mean, the swamp is a big place, is it not, Steeder?
The swamp is indeed a big place, and we are headed into it. And I put an arm around Steeder before he can answer and lead him back in the direction of our room.
Well, you know, I know the swamp very, very well.
I would be willing to bet that no one in this town knows the swamp better than Steeder.
I give an enormous grin over my shoulder as we get led away.
Well, it's hard to bet when I don't know where you're going.
I mean, do any of us know where we're going in this crazy world? Paths diverge and converge. Some will get lost, some will be found. It's perhaps not even for us to decide where we're going, and I'm still just like leading Steeder away. I have no interest in talking to. I do not trust Hamsa at all.
Very well, then. I'll just stick around the inn and pray for your safe return. Oh, dear Orestes. And you hear him step down the stairs, saying a prayer for travel.
Have you noticed, Steeder, that this Hamsa appears to be in the most opportune places at the most inopportune times?
I have not, but I don't notice things like that. I try and keep my eyes down towards the mud, you know.
It's one thing I respect about you. Not the only thing, but one thing.
All right. I think that is a point, I think, which we're going to regather. I'd like to find out from you, as you head out, Steeder and Brita, it sounds like with the time you got together, with the oversleeping, the setting up, the getting supplies, it's around noon at the time you set out. Is that correct?
Sure.
Yeah, let's imagine that there's some meteorological reason why it's a good idea to leave at noon. The sun burns off the egg mist.
It does burn off the mist, which makes it easier to keep everybody with you. Also, once you get into some of the denser parts of the thicket, you know, who knows what time of day it is. It's a little light or it's not light at all. And the nice advantage noon has is it's not nighttime.
Before we leave the inn, I was hoping to get everyone together and maybe workshop this third discern realities question about the bag, because I'd love it if we had an answer on this thing.
Yeah, then it's definitely going to be noon by the time you regather and have a conference.
So I would have left the bag exactly where it landed. I haven't touched it. I'm circling around it like it's dangerous. But you know, I hustle one of the more impressive members of the party up sort of close to it while holding onto their shoulder or their bicep and sort of say, this item though, I don't know what to make of this. I think it looks useful and everything in there looks good, and the children, Morning Star and Evening Star, have always been welcome additions in the village, but I'm concerned by fairy bargains with all that we've learned. So I think I'll see if I can lead Brita in, because Brita seems to be the one that, in Steeder's view, has the most talismanic power to resist this kind of compulsion, or I don't know. So I'm pushing her forward partly as a consultant and partly as a shield against fairy curses.
Oh, why do you think this bag comes from fairies, Steeder?
Because it wasn't here 1 minute, and then I turned around and it was here, and look, two sides, one light, one dark, strange, delicious, tempting treats within. I don't know much about fairy magic, but everything here looks just too good to be true.
When I was younger, I met people who were able to remove objects from my person without me noticing. In those days, of course, I was full of wrath, so I punished them. Is it not possible that some similar trick of sleight of hand could be at work here?
A phantom altruist?
Why not? I am an altruist.
Well, if you were to take the bag, then perhaps you could be proof against its temptations.
What is in the bag?
Cakes, and sort of grab at it with a stick and open it up, and cakes, and there's some honey wine in there. It's provisions, but like I say, of strange and potentially.
Yona, do you know anything of fairies who make donations of food to travelers?
Wait, what was that question?
Do you know anything about fairies who make donations to travelers?
I might. I can. Let's roll to see if I know anything about that. I might well. Oops. That would be a 7.
Yona, you know that lots of powers in the swamp do favors because they want to give a debt of some sort, or they want to gain debt on somebody. Food is a fairly basic one. Or I should say lots of powers in the marches, not just in the swamp. Food is a fairly basic one. And if the food is not saving your life at the moment when you accept it, the favor is going to be proportional.
I'm aware of this having happened in the past. I try to avoid things like this by nature, but a gift was given, but it is a gift which will require some payment in return. However, the favor owed will be proportional to the gift. So some small favor to whomever provided it. So were you to accept this gift, you would be expected to return the favor in due course.
All gifts carry with them an expectation in this place. When I was younger, hospitality insisted that we give gifts with no expectation of return. But then we always expected hospitality wherever we went, so perhaps it was just a hidden transaction. My advice to you, Steeder, if you are in deathly fear of this gift, is simply thus: distribute it little by little among the people you meet. In that way, the magic shall be spread among many, and the spell broken. Or keep it until the utmost need. For surely then, at the utmost need, you will accept the gift of any creature. Unless I have misjudged you.
Wise and sage advice. I'll add it to our pack, and should the moment become dire, we may all take advantage of some fairy hospitality.
Perhaps. As for me, hunger and thirst shall not trouble me while I am on my quest.
All right, so I grabbed the bag and I put it nice and safe at the bottom of the big rucksack that I'm using for all of our gear.
Do you have a last question in relation to that bag before we move on?
Well, now that I can take a proper look at it, and as I'm repacking it to make sure that everything in there is protected, I'm going to see if any items within the bag look particularly useful. I'm going to ask what here is useful to me. I'm sort of looking for a temptation.
Yeah, the food is certainly as useful as any food is. It's remarkably well preserved. It doesn't look like it's going to the apples are not bruised, even though they've been in a bag with other apples and other things. But the bag seems especially finely made. The stitching seems exquisite. You may be able to put things in here that would tear other things. Or that would tear other bags. Because the stitching here seems extraordinarily well done, and the cloth seems incredibly pliable and soft in a way that suggests it will be difficult to tear.
Well, that's definitely speaking to my scavenger's heart. So as everyone else is getting ready, my hand just finds a way to wander into the pack every couple of minutes and just sort of stroke at one of the stitchings or fuss with one of the threads, and find myself thinking about all the circumstances in which I could use that bag, and then sort of mentally slapping myself down and going, no, you leave that fairy bag alone, Steeder. You know what's good for you.
You had one more question, Yona, for following up on your divination.
Yes,
you were getting several hours from that divination. Before you set out, would you like to ask that?
Yeah, and I think that Yona is getting visibly kind of agitated. Like she's beginning to sort of scratch at her skin a bit without her familiar around. So I think she would be hoping that it would return to her at some point. As far as the divination spell, I think I will go ahead and ask if it's all right with the party. Is the disappearance of the people related to the disappearance of the village of Swineford?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Okay.
I think the same reason are words that occur to you.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
And then I think at that point you feel your familiar's steps along your arm.
And my body language immediately, goes from kind of tense, almost like, you know, somebody who is in withdrawal from a from a drug. I relax and just I feel a sense of calm and purpose and connection. Again, I don't like to be separated from it for very long.
And it emerges from your shirt, your tunic or your shirt, and sort of wraps itself, or at least the upper portion of its body, around your ear. And what was the question you had asked?
It was about the iconography of the imprint that is on Breda and
Right.
on Talon.
They are they come from the long ago empire that used to be here. They were the first people to drain the swamps and build here, create the cities. Eelton is the last of those, but it's said that the buildings of Swineford were sort of an echo of their architectures. Swineford, before the swamp took it back again, had been fairly carefully drained. Had not had, you know, been close to the wetland for a time, and the marks seem to be the marks of different princes from that long ago empire. The princes were a period of the empire's history in which they experimented with monarchy, and then they experimented with oligarchy, and then they went back to and then they collapsed. But much like Rome, they had a nice patrician system set up, and then a bunch of empire builders sort of came along and spoiled everyone's fun and installed a limited system of princes. And these were the signets of various princes from that old empire.
Okay. Would I know how many of the princes there were, or would that be a separate?
That's yeah. I think I'm going to give you a piece of information on this in the, you can, you know, if it becomes relevant, you can spout lore about it. I think, again, more there. But that's one of those, you know, everybody says something different because it all depends on how you count and what you count. You know, there were certainly pretenders and people who divvied up the empire in different ways. And then the Gaunt Marches are indeed the marches of one half of the empire that broke off from another half of the empire, or the borderlands between those. So there were a lot of wars fought here. There were a lot of, you know, military fortifications built here by both sides.
Cool.
So it's a all sorts of princes, and the old patrician families were never happy with any of them.
Okay, I think I will keep that part of this information to myself for now, but I will tell the rest of the party that you know, now that I'm feeling whole again, now that my familiar is back, the divination I performed earlier, I have some more information. The disappearance of your acquaintances and the disappearance of Swineford are related, and I believe they were caused by the same thing, though I can't say what that is.
Then perhaps our first destination should be where Swinford is, or was.
I agree.
So when the old path was there, the trail through the dry trail, to Swinford. It would take less than a day to get to Swinford. Now that much of the trail is underwater and has been rerouted, and the bridges have washed out or disappeared. It takes 2 days. And I think this means you're undertaking a journey to Swinford. And indeed, because the roads are washed out, it is a perilous journey. The updated travel moves from the supplement we're using distinguish between a journey by a safe route and a journey through dangerous lands. And this is definitely a journey into the Everslough. Rita and Steeder, are you going to go by as close to the old route as the old path as you to Swinford as you used to take?
Steeder, it seems to me that it is wise to do so, but the swamp changes so often. Do you perhaps know of a way that is safer, or quicker, or better?
I'm going to, in my answer, and if that's okay with you, Ellis, activate one of your flags.
Sure.
So Steeder's trying awfully hard to be the kind of knowledgeable swamp expert about all things, because that's the role he's found himself falling into. But you can see that he's way over his head. Like, he usually heads out alone. He's never ranged out with a party before, but he's too kind of proud to acknowledge that he really has no idea how to handle like armored people and people who are wandering around. So he's kind of stuttering and stammering a response, but he needs help.
Come on, man, speak. If you don't know, I know.
But
Ellis, this is potentially a golden opportunity for you to speak up, since everybody seems to be ignoring the ranger that Raven recruited.
About
specifically about the routes through the swamp to the old town of Swineford.
Okay. Yeah, if you follow the old, what's left of the old path, but if I remember right, it's been a while since I've been to Swineford, but a couple miles along, there's another. It's there's a path. It's just underwater, right there, or it used to be, about maybe less than a foot underwater. But if you follow it, it goes uphill a little, and you're on dry land for most of the rest of the way.
So it goes up an old dune. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to, Ellis, do you want to roll Spout Lore just to see
Sure.
if you know anything extra about that you might want to throw in there?
Whoops, with the way my computer's working today, I'm just going to use regular dice here. That's wisdom, right? If I remember right.
Right.
10.
10. Awesome.
Wait, is that wisdom or intelligence?
It's intelligence.
Okay.
That is intelligence.
In that case, it's an 8.
Yeah, you go up the dune. You go up a dune, and I am grabbing a name for you. And I'm going to put this in the chat. It is dune actually has an old marked path that's sort of marked in boards and stones that somebody long ago hauled up onto the dune, called Calissa's Path or Calissa's Path. And since most of what the old route is underwater and involves sort of like hopping from tree to tree or mud hill to mud hill, or old sunken dune to old sunken dune, or just stomping through lots and lots of water, it seems like your route may be better. It will also it won't save you much time, but it will keep you a good bit drier, potentially. I gave you something both interesting and useful. So it was supposed to just be interesting. So I'd like to know, as you set out for this first day, who's scouting ahead and who's navigating? And who's keeping an eye on the provisions?
I can scout. I think I volunteer for that anyway. So, and Steeder maybe should navigate. I don't know. Or Ellis.
Steeder or Ellis should definitely be navigating. I would say.
Yeah, maybe Ellis.
I think if Steeder, jumps in and like starts navigating, I'll defer to him. Otherwise, I'll just like point out where that path is that I know about and just kind of take over from there, assuming that like nobody else knows the way.
Actually, Steeder is better navigator.
Yeah.
And who would take over the provisions?
Actually, how about seeing as I'm carrying this comically large pack with all the gear in it, why don't I take provisions and someone else navigates? Because
you also have the accursed provisions on your person, so
have the accursed and non-accursed provisions both.
Accursed. Okay, so much better.
Just don't mix them up.
The curse of gluten.
So, I'd like to start with the navigating.
Okay, here we go. It's nothing, and it's 8.
Nice.
Yeah, it's not terrible.
Or sorry, that was scouting ahead. I apologize. Yeah. You choose one from that list below on scout ahead, Rita.
Oh, let us notice sign of a nearby danger and what it might signify.
Rita, you see sort of as you step clear of a shallow bit of water that you've had to sort of step through, um, you stand up, and about 200 feet away from you, you see what looks like a fairly large bear fishing, and it's very intent on the fishing, and it's a good distance away. At this point, what would Brita normally do on seeing a bear? Just briefly, because you're going to see more, but I want to get a sense of how you respond.
If I don't see children or cubs around, then I would probably assume it's maybe a male bear. In any case, mostly it's about freezing, stepping back, and getting ready just in case, but not trying to antagonize the bear. Because why should I antagonize a bear? I mean,
right?
It's a bear.
It is super intent on fishing. Even the sound that you were clearly making as you went through that sort of wet spot, and your companions will probably be making momentarily as they catch up to this position you were in, do not seem to be it seems to be looking very, very carefully at the water. And I think that's when you realize that the water it's in either would have very small fish or fish that would be probably caught and near death, and that the bear could just, oh, wait, there goes something, grabbing the bear's neck and pulling it into a mire, head first.
So I step back up onto the driest piece of land and wait for Ellis to get over here.
And it struggles for a moment and then just seems to get pulled down under something. And you swear you saw something that looked vaguely snaky or tentacly of some sort wrap itself around its head and pull. And it seemed to come from whatever the bear was intently looking at, and seemed to be interacting with as if it were just perpetually right about to catch a fish.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely waving Ellis. And actually, Steeder, get over here, you coward.
And now the bear's back legs are just sort of twitching and making gentle splashing sounds in the water.
Gentle, like it's already been killed, and it's too late for us to do anything.
You're several hundred feet from it, and its head is buried, but you're not quite there yet, because Rita is scouting ahead. Rita, are you calling out, or are you waiting until they catch up and then trying to motion them forward?
I think I'll do the second thing. So I'm on the driest piece of land or rock I can find, and I've got my staff ready.
And Brita, just as they become apparent, you see the bear sort of brace itself, and at first you think it must be a death throw or a death rattle, but then it just pulls its muddy head out of the mire and sort of rights itself, and then very, very slowly and staggeringly wanders back off behind the trees.
Oh, that's not disturbing at all. Steeder, Ellis, get over here. Quietly.
And Steeder, was it you who was Steeder or Ellis? Ellis, I think it makes more sense for you to roll the navigate, doesn't it?
Okay. Yeah, that'll work. Roll navigate. It doesn't even matter what I add. That's 11.
That's 11? That's awesome. You avoid dangers and distractions and make good time, reaching the point of my choosing before you need to make camp. So you actually get people to a decent stopping place. You're going kind of up and along this kind of long dune. The dune seems lower than you remember it. But dunes, like the swamp, change over time, and it's been a while since you came this way. And I think you're a good ways up. Has anybody been on a forested dune before? I say dune, and it's not like you're at the beach just kind of wandering over this kind of loose piece of sand. This is a kind of a forest on top of a hill made of densely packed sand. And it is heavily evergreen. The smell in the air is heavy with pine sap or pitch. And you are walking along, and this is, Steeder, you know that this is the driest route you've taken. It may not be the fastest, but it's definitely the driest route since Swineford sunk back into the swamp that you've taken.
Yeah, I'm just kind of strolling around in amazement, really. I'm poking my stick into the path, sort of amazed at how little it goes in before it hits something solid. And I'll give Ellis a couple of really appreciative, like impressed looks, occasionally just pointing at things and going like, dry land.
And the stones and wood under your feet seem very, very old. But Calissa's path seems to still be intact. Though there's not many signs of people coming this way. And as you expected, with having to go up, sort of cut your time. By the time the sun is going down and the copses of trees are getting sort of dark, you are on the far side of this, in sort of a safe sort of little grove of trees. And it's you actually have time to make camp well before the sun settles too far. You're managing provisions there, Steeder, correct?
Yep.
Roll with wisdom.
7.
7?
Yep. I think I packed not wisely, but too well.
Yeah. By the end of this journey, or sorry, by the at this night, you're gonna each consume a ration or a. Your Steeder's got you sort of divvied up. Making sure.
I'll take it all off the uses in my pack.
But each person consumes one ration. So you are in dangerous territory.
5 total.
Mm-hmm. That is, yeah. You've actually got 10 total because you actually start with 10, or you actually start with 5 and you got 5 more. And then I think each person, most of you have dungeon rations of your own. So you can either, yeah, you can take 1 off each of yours.
That's okay. I've taken 5 off of mine.
Okay.
Off of the stuff that I was carrying anyway.
All right. So no one else has to take it off. So you're back down to 5, Steeder. Using up just the fresh stuff you've got on you for this meal. I'd like because you're in a fairly dangerous spot, I need at least 4 of you to go and watch throughout the night and tell me what order you're going in.
Raven can take a first watch.
I'll take the graveyard shift, the hardest one.
I'll take the early morning one. I don't like to get up early, but I already know I won't be sleeping well this night, so might as well get it over with.
I'll take the remaining one.
All right. Rita, would you just make a straight up roll?
Sure. Nothing bad will happen from that. 7.
You hear Brother Gallon talking in his sleep. Rita. And then he just sort of turns over, pulls the covers up around him, even though it's not particularly cold on this summery, humid night. Kind of up around him very, very snugly, and settle down. And at the morning, Gallon and his belongings are gone by the time that Yona comes on watch.
Do I have missing time?
No. You don't have any missing time. You know,
it wasn't my plan to fall asleep since, fatigue does not bother me.
Oh no. I was just saying you spot him doing this, and then by the time you go through Ellis's watch, and then Ellis relieves you, and then Yona relieves Ellis, and by the time it's Ellis's kind of time to wake everybody up. Or, yeah, Yona relieves Ellis, and by the time it's time for Yona to wake everybody up, Gallon and his belongings are gone.
Yona?
Yeah, did I see... was he gone when I got up for watch, or what did it happen on my watch?
No one. I don't think anybody else.
Nobody saw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yona, where is Brother Galleon?
I don't have any idea. He wasn't here when I woke up for my watch. Didn't you?
I mean, you can see between your watch and Ellis's watch that it seemed you were there. You know, you could count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people.
In the place where he was there, is there any, anything disturbed, signs of a struggle, let's say, anything like that?
No.
We came into the swamp in this direction to look for mysteries. We have found one. May I suggest, Ellis, that you help us track our departed comrade, if possible. If he has been captured by some evil menace, it is our duty to go and find him.
Yeah, I'm already like circling around the camp looking for any signs of tracks or anything.
Is there a special ranger track move, or is it really just discern reality? Okay.
I don't know how it's different from discern realities.
Right. Okay. It's probably will be more specific and give.
It is. Yeah. Okay. Here you go. It's like on a 10+, on a 7+, you follow the creature's trail until there's a significant change in its direction or mode of travel. And on a 10, you also either gain a useful bit of information or determine what caused the trail to end.
So I will tell you this: there is no trail of clues.
Okay.
There's no sign of footprints.
I'm gonna get Banshee to like go up and circle around and see if he spots him.
Actually, yeah, let's go ahead and have you roll that hunt and track. I think that's
okay. Snake eyes.
Oh no.
Don't forget the quality though that Banshee gives you. Don't push it.
I mean, if I add that might bring me up to a 5.
So Banshee is circling around. You're studying the ground. And Rita, you hear a splash coming from the sort of nearest area where the swamps come up and meet land, near the grove of trees that you've sort of nestled in. And with that, let's take a 5-minute break. And just to clarify, it's an ominous sounding splash, Brita.
Well, duh.
Welcome back, everybody. Rita, you heard an ominous sounding splash not very far away. And then there's something that just sort of sounds like a hiccuping or a gurgling sound coming from the area of the splash.
Everyone falling behind me.
Yeah, I do that without hesitation. I'm already behind you when you say that.
Whatever creatures out there, what happens next is on you. We mean you no harm, but we will return harm paid to us. I've got my staff out, ready to ward off anything that comes too close. Steeda, is this like anything you've ever heard?
No, everything in the swamp tries to avoid something as big as a person, but
I would say that everything is no longer true, Steeder. Be more precise in your language. We will talk on this later.
And I think the first thing all of you see are the antlers.
Did you say antlers?
I said antlers.
Antlers.
They're like the antlers of a deer or a stag you might see out in the Kyrgyz forest. Smaller than, not as majestic as an elk, but certainly pretty large. And then you see the head that you would expect, and it's moving towards you very, very slowly. And when I said expect, it's kind of oddly positioned. It's not up, and it also has an odd feature. The sound it's making is coming through what looks like a big pointed yellow beak at its mouth. And as it pulls itself clear of the trees, it's sort of just pulling along this sort of weirdly quasi-fishy body on two large striped claws. And it's making that weird bug up sound and sort of eyeing you. What do you do?
I'm standing on the defensive, waiting for something, waiting to see what it's going to do.
Same here.
Are you a bow ranger?
I have a bow, yes, indeed, and I have an arrow in the bow, but I'm just waiting to see what it does.
This is no natural creature.
It's hard to say what is and isn't natural here.
Does its chest rise and fall? Is it breathing?
It seems to be breathing. Certainly it's forcing air out through its beak.
It's on dry land, or it's in the marsh?
It has pulled itself out of the marsh, it appears.
Okay.
And while it has a fishy body, it's sort of weirdly densely plated almost.
I'm going to grab one of the flatbreads that we were toasting for breakfast.
Yeah.
I'm going to huck it into the bushes off to one side of it, sort of close enough that it's, close enough that it wouldn't miss where it landed, but not so close that it might look like I'm attacking it or throwing it at it. I want to see how it reacts to food.
So you're just sort of trying to see what it does?
Yeah, totally. I don't know. I don't have any special skills with this, but Steeder's curiosity is overcoming him.
Steeder, why don't you, let's call it wisdom. Let's go ahead and roll with your wisdom.
Oh dear, 5.
Steeder reels back. To throw the thing. And the beak opens with a loud screech, and the thing just fast as lightning bolts forward, knocking Steeder to the ground, pinning him down. The thrown thing still in your hand, and it looks like it's just about to whip its head around and gore you with its antlers, Steeder. What does everybody do?
I shoot it.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm rushing in with my stick, trying to pry it off and defend. So please take the shot too, though. I'm okay with that.
let's start with the shot. And this is me having not run a ranger in a long time. Is there a special ranger move other than just volley, or?
There's called shot, but I think I'm just volleying.
Okay. All right, let's run.
That's a 9. I think that's Dex, yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I think I have a that's 10.
Nice. One sec. I'm flipping between too many pages here, but so when you volley on a 10+, you have a clear shot. Deal your damage.
All right. That's an 8, isn't it? Hold on a sec. We're gonna actually need more than just the 2d6s.
Yeah.
7.
It lines up a shot, and it sort of like sinks into its flank. At first, you think it's going to get deflected by that weirdly thick hide it has, but then it sort of sinks in right above its shoulder, where those weird long claws that are striped come out, and it pivots its head to look at you, Ellis, and then that's when you were jumping in, Brita?
Yep.
And you're standing
in plan.
and you're trying to standing in defense of Steeder.
Yeah,
correct?
this is gonna work out well.
Why don't you roll with con?
It's gonna be great. Don't worry, Steeder. Gotcha.
It's going to be
7. I did. I got a hold of 1.
awesome. Okay, yeah. So you it pivots around, kind of taking a lot of its weight off Steeder, and looking like it's about to. It's trying to decide whether to gore Steeder or to charge at Ellis, who just shot it. And now you're in the mix.
Oh, there's only one option. I'll spend my hold to redirect its attack to me.
Yeah. So let's see. What is everybody else doing? Steeder, what are you trying to do? And Yona?
I'm squawking in alarm. I'm probably the last person to have a coherent response.
Anything you want to accomplish with this? Or while you squawk an alarm, or do you want me to come back to you after I check with Raven and Yona?
Yeah, come back to me. I have some
Okay.
ideas, but let's
Raven.
hope we don't need them.
Yona, what are you up to there?
I have had my spell book at the ready.
Yep.
As this was approaching, I'm kind of feverishly looking through it to find something that I could do to assist the party. What I would like to do is call upon like the earth. I'm guessing there's like a lot of vegetation around where this
Right.
thing is, to kind of enmesh itself around its means of locomotion as much as possible to slow it down,
Right.
since it attacked so quickly. I would like to kind of probably not stop it. That might be a little too much of an ask, but impede its ability to attack with such speed again.
Right. So are you crafting some smoke and mirrors?
So yeah, this is thaumaturgy. So
sorry, maybe. You're looking at thaumaturgy? Sorry.
Yeah. So you get to put some restrictions upon how this shakes out. My magic is kind of like the mage playbook.
Okay.
Where I kind of like make some bespoke magic, and then it gets some limitations put upon it.
Okay.
So do you see the spell, or do you want me to tell you the move, or do you want me to tell you what the?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it, so just tell me.
So you get to tell me what I need, how long it will take, how long the effects will last, and if there are any restrictions put upon it. So any or all of those things.
Right, okay. Repeat those three again, I'm sorry.
What I need, how long it will take to cast, how long the spell will last, and if there are any restrictions, for example, how it might be disrupted or destroyed, if there's a time and a place I have to cast it, etc.
It will last very, very briefly.
Okay.
And you need, I think, some of your own blood.
Okay. I like it. Cool. Yeah. So I have it's like a walking stick, sort of a staff, and on top of it is a crystal rabbit skull. It's a crystal carved into the shape of a hare skull, and some of the edges of it are quite sharp, like like flint or like obsidian. And so I've used this before, so I cut a bit of it and then hold my hand out over the earth and let the droplets fall onto the ground to activate the spell.
All right. And then you make a roll, correct?
There's no roll for that, but I'm guessing
okay.
Yeah, I'm guessing I'll roll for damage though. For or is that just do you want to just assign damage to that?
Actually, let's have you roll for it.
Okay, so what are we looking at? A D4, D6?
Yeah, let's use your class damage.
Okay, so I'll roll a D4 and ignore armor. So 2.
Okay, so all right. What happens when you do this? I mean,
So,
you're normally an illusion and shape-shifting sort of person, but you've called out to the earth. What is happening?
So as it my blood soaks into the earth, and I'm kind of like reciting this incantation over and over and over again. The undergrowth, the vines, and the weeds just begin to grow a little bit and begin to enmesh themselves around this thing's body.
Right.
So that when it goes to make a move again, it will be it won't be able to move freely.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So these are coming up as sort of bonds of sand and grass. and these weird sort of red leaf vines that are sort of coming up with them. What about the rest of you? Yona, I've not heard from you yet, and Steeder, I've not heard from you yet. And anybody else can also chime in.
Raven, you said Yona.
Yeah, so yeah. Yeah, Raven. Sorry, I apologize. And
Yeah.
this would explain why I couldn't find thaumaturgy. Yona, I'm sorry, I had the Masked Mage playbook open and was like, oh, wait. Very confused. So, yeah, Raven.
Yeah, I think Raven is like closely examining this creature, but like trying to rack their brain if they've heard of anything, you know, of this type, any reports, to try to figure out what this thing is and what they're dealing with.
Awesome. So you're really trying to tell me, sort of like, as you're trying to rack your brain, go over your occult lore. I'm gonna have you roll with your intelligence.
Awesome. That is an 8.
What you're looking at, as Brita said, is not natural. But you've heard rumors somewhere in the swamp there is a sorcerer who knits things together. Some sort of dark being who knits things together for their own strange, and then sends them out to hunt. So it's hunting for it's hunting on behalf of someone. Though you don't know if it's for food or what.
Okay.
What about you, Steeder?
Well, I am 100% not interested in getting gored. So, would the easiest thing for me to do, seeing as it's kind of looming on top of me, be to kind of fling my arms around its neck and try and just make sure that whatever happens, it can't pull its head back to impale me?
Right.
I don't know which move that would be.
Yeah. So you're really trying to, like, in other words, kind of brace its head in place or push it away from you?
That
Well, I
almost
don't know
sounds
if
like help her interfere or, help
Yeah,
another
yeah.
attack.
I was thinking sort of, mechanically I was thinking defy danger, but tell me the outcome you want.
I want it so that although I might get scuffed up and clawed a little bit, it can't.
It can't gore you?
It can't rear back and gore me with its antlers. So I don't think I'm strong enough to keep it off, but I'm hoping that I'm strong enough that if I, throw my arms around its midsection or around its neck, I can hold onto it so that it can't get the distance it needs to zap me.
Right. So this is happening just as Yona's sort of threads of sand and vine and grass are coming up around it, and you're planning just to sort of like grab its antlers so it can't kind of come down at you and kind of pull yourself up so that it can't really get purchase on you or come away. So why don't you, let's do a roll with strength.
I got a 7.
Um, So Yona, does it sound fair to you to say the Earth is not always precise?
Definitely.
Okay. Because I'm feeling like you have a possibility that you're going to get wrapped up in it. What's curling around this thing, Steeder, or you can try to scamper back, and you've got Brita there to sort of block it if it tries to lunge after you. Which do you want to do?
Well, I've seen that thing move, and I'm not 100% confident that I can scamper free in the time that it would take for it to zap me. So I'm just gonna hunker down and trust my friends.
So you're sort of pulling yourself up to this thing and sort of holding on to it as these vines and they're holding on to it, but they're also getting under your clothes. And you feel the abrasion and the vines and everything sort of wrapping around you and sort of pinning you to this thing. But you're up next to its chest, so it definitely cannot ease. There's not a simple way for it to get to you, except maybe with that beak, but it will be a little off-center if it tries to do that. Brita, everybody else, what are you doing at this point? I've mentioned Brita because you sort of chimed in early last time, but what is everybody else doing?
Well, if you know, I'm willing to spend my hold to have it attack me, but here's a question for you, Richard.
Yeah.
For the purposes of I am the law, does this count as an NPC?
What is the I am the law option?
When you give an NPC an order based on your divine authority, roll plus charisma.
I think this is more of a beast.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I'm more than willing to spend its hold to direct its attack entirely at me, and I will hack and slash the heck out of it.
Awesome.
You know, with my staff. So.
All right. Yeah. Roll with strength.
Yes, sir. 1 sec. Brita's boons. That should be an 8.
An 8?
Yep, an 8.
Roll your damage, by the way, real quickly.
Yep. That's gonna be a theme in a second, I think. Ooh, hello, nurse. I forget the staff does any extra. It does not, so that's 10 points.
That's 10 points of damage. Brita, roll a roll the d10 again and add 2 to it.
All right, 7 points. That's I got a lot of points.
So I think, what were you going for with your staff? Where on its body were you going? Its beak seemed to be the most pressing danger to your friend Steeder.
Well, the staff is extremely large. Well, it's extremely thick and heavy, and has like bronze footing on either end. So probably I'm using it to sort of just jab the thing back with thrusts and then cracking it right between the antlers.
I think you find you get a little too close as it's sort of writhing in the vines and Cedar is writhing right next to it, pinned up against it. And it scrapes you pretty heavily along your arms and the side of your neck. but then it stops moving as your staff connects with its skull, and you hear a crack. And there's some twitching in what looks like the tail, but you can't tell if that's Yona's magic or Steeder wrestling to try to get away, or not.
What a pity.
And this was instantaneous and short-lived. So it was starting to break apart already. And Steeder, you're able to sort of bring yourself largely free. The Steeder, I'd like you to roll a d6.
6.
6. Yeah, wherever those, you're certainly abraded wherever those sandy veins sort of hit you, but wherever those vines were is starting to form red, blistering welts. And I will ask you, do you think that describes damage, or do you think it describes 1 second. Do you think it describes damage, or do you think it describes this weird sick feeling as blisters and welts start to form across your skin?
I think on an ordinary person, it would definitely make them feel sick, but Steeder spent so much time being stung and envenomed by the various inhabitants of this inhabitants of this region, that for him it's just damage.
Okay. Yeah, you take 6 points of damage. And part of that is just shakiness and shock. And part of that is the abrasions, welts, blisters that are forming all over your skin. Wherever those vines touched. And the thing is, stop moving. What's the scene you have here before you leave?
I would like to use divination about the creature.
Okay.
I'm only looking for a yes or no response, and I have an object belonging to the person, place, or thing, being the creature itself.
Right.
So
I'm going to ask you what are you cutting away from the creature? As part of your divination.
I think the antlers. I think I would.
Okay.
I'm guessing Steeder has a dagger or something, so I would borrow that and cut it away from its head.
I have basically a machete, so
yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah. I just go up and whack it.
Thank you. Yeah. Perfect. So, oh dear, that is a 5. So I got nothing. Yeah, I sit with the antler maybe in my lap as my familiar, does its thing, runs across my body trying to communicate with me, but I just don't get anything off of it. And you said it was kind of breaking apart, so maybe whatever magic was holding it together has already left its body.
Yeah, I think as you start to ask, its head turns up and its bill suddenly opens, even as its body is starting to collapse behind it. Sort of like almost, it looks strangely like your spell as it just sort of like comes apart. But its bill turns up and opens, and in sort of a half frog, half bird like tone, it's like, "Who do you work for?"
Nope. I don't talk to dead.
You work
No.
for?
Yeah. I'm the one that asks the questions of the dead things. So
Yeah, just to clarify, do you say that aloud or?
yeah, I literally go, nope, I don't. I'm the one that asks the questions, not doing this.
I will take this land from the dead things. I will take this land from all the dead things. Their empires fall, but mine will not.
Okay, I'm like literally just like slowly stepping backwards away from it. I drop the antler on the
All
ground.
the humans living and dead will leave my territory.
You guys hearing this? I'm not the only one that hears this, right?
No,
You see
I
the head-
heard. Or do
Yeah,
we?
yeah.
I'm hearing it.
And then its beak sort of like comes apart, as if the thing that stitched it together just is no longer there, and it sort of separates like bad taxidermy away from the face it was attached to.
So I have one more thing I want to do, but I know that like the focus has been on Yona for a minute, so I'll let other people take over for a bit. But I have one more thing I want to do before we like leave this vignette.
And what's the scene you guys want to have? The rest of you, what's the thing you want to do or say, establish before you leave?
I wouldn't mind a chance to talk to Robert and maybe hit his flag there a little bit. Excuse me, emissary. You seemed rather less startled than the rest of us. I mean, obviously, seeing a creature such as this is startling to any rational person. I glance at Yona and glance back. Do you perhaps know something of this? And I should point out that, Rita can absolutely see what Raven actually looks like, but doesn't know who that is. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess practice and stuff like this has helped me keep my cool.
And you've not said anything about what you know, correct, Raven?
About what I know about
the creature?
What did I learn about the creature again?
That there was a sorcerer who made things like this in the swamp.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. So that would be perfect. So yeah, at this point, Robert, fills you all in. We've gotten reports of some sort of sorcerer in the area and foul magic.
That seems a strange subject for a diplomat to have to study.
Well, reports come in, we file them away and all that fun stuff.
This is useful information, however. Well, perhaps we shall encounter this sorcerer. Perhaps the sorcerer is involved, though I suspect not, as we were attacked on our way to Swinford. It did not feel defensive to me.
He was babbling about, stay out of my lands.
Yeah, so I just figured that was dark sorcerer kind of thing.
Fair assumption.
Ellis, anything you'd like to do? Steeder, same question to you before you head out.
I am. It's funny because I know that I know that that Raven is not who they're pretending to be, but I think I'm not gonna blow their cover.
Okay.
At the moment, because like I know them and I don't know anybody else, so they're still like, okay, I'm still a little bit on their side here. Although I'm a little confused as to why they're disguising themselves as like, really, what? Like what? This seems like an odd choice. So I am not going to point out a flower secret to another person. That was the only thing I was thinking of maybe doing, so it's fine.
Steeder, anything you'd like to do before leaving?
Yeah, I've been standing on the edge of the clearing that we camped in and leaning on my staff, sort of absent-mindedly scratching under my armor where the welts are. And as we get our last bit of gear together, I'll sort of scowl and spit and look at the creature and say, it's not right. It's not right making these poor misformed things and making them speak with borrowed voices. The sorcerer, they're a foul person. I hope we never run into them.
Or any more of their creatures. I don't know which is worse. Well, the more of these or a person who can make these.
It seemed in pain, and
it did.
It's just not right.
Yona, what was the last thing you wanted to do?
So if we want to find the person, the sorcerer who created this monstrosity, I believe I can create a magic object that would help us, that would point us in the right direction. So I'll leave that up to the party if we want to try to go find this sorcerer. I believe I can help us with that. Otherwise, we can continue on our path towards Swineford.
I say we just continue on our way and try and find that little girl. And now, Brother Galleon and their traveling companion as well. The sorcerer, perhaps for another day.
My intention in my divination was to discern if whether or not this sorcerer were related to the disappearances, but I couldn't gain any information about that.
I mean, if you have the means to make like a homing beacon or whatever of sorts, even if we're not seeking this thing out, you know, it might be useful to know if it's where we're going.
True. So what I would like to do is use thaumaturgy to create a sort of a compass, so to speak, that would point in the cardinal direction of where the
creator is.
The creator is, yeah. So nothing really more complex than that. It would just point in the direction of where the magic that created this thing originated from.
So I'm going to say the creating something like this is navigational. So it requires both stars and moonset
Okay.
To forge it. You have what you need. I think the antlers and maybe one other thing that you take with you will be what you need.
Okay.
But it will last twice as long as the time you spend making it.
Okay, so it will be. We'll carry it with us. I will need to do it when we make camp at night, so that I can use the stars to help. So I'll carry the materials with me, and then it will, we will have this information the next day.
And sort of day by day, it'll be a little bit different. Sometimes you'll need it early in the evening because you need stars out and moonset. If the moon comes up the moon comes up in daylight, that'll be early evening. Sometimes it'll be late evening, and sometimes during a new moon, you won't be able to do much with it. But you have as long as the night gives you as far as maximum time. But it will last twice as long once you start using it as you spent enchanting it.
Okay.
And you can redo it, but that's sort of what you need.
Okay. And I think the other piece of it I need. I like the idea of it being like a simple compass, like when you put a magnetized needle on, floated on water, but instead of that, it's floating in stomach bile or something, and it's a sliver of the antler floating in a little container of bile. I think
what do you do to find that container of bile, or what you would normally look for?
I'll use. I guess it would make sense that I had like a small knife, not a dagger per se, but a little knife for cutting.
Really, that would fall under adventuring. That would fall under adventuring gear. So you just mark a use of adventuring gear, and so you have a knife.
Yeah, so I will just very surgically. So despite my kind of sort of not quite noble, but I like to put on airs that I'm more aristocratic and wealthier than I am. But when it comes down to things like this, I am quite adept. So I rather surgically get in there and cut its belly open and.
And what you find where you're looking for bile is a sack filled with black ink.
Ink, like squid ink.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. Okay. I will. How about this? I'll mark off another use of adventuring gear, and I would like to collect more of that ink than I need, and then
you have a watertight bag or an oiled bag.
Sure, yeah.
Or oiled skin that you can keep that in.
So I'll take that, and then I'll drop some of it into like an acorn cap or something to be the receptacle, and then cut a sliver off the antler to be my needle.
Okay. All right. Who's scouting ahead again?
Fine, since no one volunteers.
I can.
No, it's fine. I'm only wounded.
I have Breda. I reach into my pack, kind of like while I'm doing this, I'm like slicing and like storing things, and I like also reach into my pack and hand you poultices and herbs. So that is I use it on myself, and I give some to you as well. So
this is a swamp thing that you give me.
More or less, yes. And
I don't know about this. This is.
I grab it and I literally like it's a bunch of leaves in my hand, and I like and I spit in it and like mash it into a like a wet.
I tell you what,
and hand it to you.
Why don't you give that to Steeder? It seems more like his sort of thing.
But it will cure your wounds.
Yes, but I don't trust your ways.
Very well, Steeder.
Gratefully. I'll use half, and then I'll say to Breda, you really should try some. It's taking the stinging right away.
I only need a night's sleep.
Suit yourself.
Actually, I only do need a night's sleep, but that's okay. I'm going straight ahead.
So what are the effects of the paste?
I think it's a D.
It's actually you just heal 7.
Oh, okay. No roll. So yeah, heal 7.
Yeah, there's no special roll. You heal 7 as they're treated, but it is getting later in the morning than you would normally want to set off with a group, Steeder. I mean, this is the first time you've had a group, but your instincts are sort of saying. Breda, you're scouting ahead, correct?
Yep.
Why don't you go ahead and make that roll with Wiz?
This went well. That is a 4. Oh, that XP I gave is going to come back to haunt me, isn't it?
You are scouting ahead, and it's a rather pleasant day, Breda. And you start to hear the soft sounds of a flute. It's a lower flute than that you might expect. But definitely like this very gentle sort of fluting sound, just kind of carrying across and then you hear a melody sort of played. What do you do?
Stop. Stand leaning on my staff, listening to the music. Suspicious AF, but still intrigued. I mean, it could be someone who could tell us something.
I don't know if this does anything mechanically, but I think I'm kind of trying to keep an eye on Breda, since like I know she's injured
Scouting
and also
ahead
too
means
stubborn.
she's going to have to get out of your sight. To be an effective scout, she can't just sort of like.
If only somebody had an animal companion.
Oh yeah, good point. That would totally work. Yes, absolutely. That is.
You do have an animal companion
that can fly and see long distances.
You do have an animal companion who is along
Yeah.
to assist. Brita, you almost swear that right before it started becoming a melody, it almost sounded like a deep, throaty thrush song, and then it sort of became melodic, and then decidedly a flute. And then it sort of reaches the end of a very short melody, and you hear a whispered voice go, "Rita, is that you?"
Who calls me? Shifting my feet ever so slightly. Surely you're not afraid to speak your name if you know mine.
Oh, well, Rita. And then kind of out of the bush, very gradually, like, I've seen you wield that staff. I don't want to get too close until you see me. And it's a very strikingly handsome young man wearing a glove. And in one hand, and sort of a leather wrapping, like he's handling sharp or difficult objects, much like you might wear at a forge. On the other, he's like, and he's holding a flute that looks very handcrafted, very very delicate. Something you might see at a fine performance in Eelton, rather than around a fireside in Goatbridge. And he sort of leans back against a tree. He's like, "I'm glad to see you're alone.
Why?
I wanted to have words with you."
Surely you would prefer a larger audience, I think.
Some of the people you're traveling with don't appreciate me. I think we've met. I'm Hamza.
Hamza. From the
Hums.
town.
Yes.
Why you followed us into the swamp?
Oh, I came out ahead of you.
Very well. There are a few meetings in this place that are not foreordained, I think.
Oh, I don't think I had to foreordain anything. I just sort of made sure I knew where you were going. Got out ahead. But when I saw you walking ahead of the others, I thought maybe you and I could have a little conversation.
I would welcome the chance to instruct you morally, if that is what you are asking me.
And he smiles very, very broadly and looks delighted, and sort of plops onto a dryish bit of sand. I'd like to switch over and you're back to navigating, correct, Ellis? Ellis, you're back to I'm sorry, that's okay.
Yes.
I had switched away, so I couldn't tell you were muted. You were back to navigating, correct? Is that right between you and Steeder? Why don't you roll with intelligence?
Oh man, I forgot it was intelligence. Can I add Banshee's quality to this since I'm like sending him ahead?
And sadly, no, because Banshee is keeping an eye on a.
Right. Yes, I already said that, didn't I? Yeah, that's a 4.
That's a 4?
Yeah. Actually, if I'd added it, it still wouldn't matter, would it?
Oh my gosh! All right. Sure thing. What did Ellis come back to Goat Bridge looking for that you never found?
My sister.
What did she run away, disappear unexpectedly, leave telling you where she was going, but then never come back?
She's like, she's much younger than me. She's like a teenager, and she wrote to me, or like she had someone write to me because none of my family could read, except for me. Now that I like moved to the big city and learned, but yeah, she said that she was planning on like leaving with this boy, and they like had this grand plan to go off and like probably like I don't know what their plans were. Maybe she didn't say. But that she was going to run off with this boy. So I went back to try to like convince her not to do that. But I missed her. She'd already left.
Steeder, you're walking along. And Ellis is checking directions, and how far behind Ellis do you think you are? Or are you up next to?
Well, I'll tell you this. I guess it depends on how much Ellis likes distractions, because I will start off walking really close to her and keeping up a constant prattle. But then if I get one too many kind of irritated looks, I'll drop back and bug whoever's next. So I guess I'll hand it over to Ellis.
I don't know how obvious I am about the irritated looks. Like it is annoying, but like I think I'm trying to be nice about it. So I think
Steeder
like
is totally
my
oblivious.
irritated looks consist mostly of just like staring at the ground and like, you know, kind of muttering in my head, shut up, you know. But yeah, I haven't actually like turned around and told you to shut up yet.
I think Steeder's approach today is like, bonding over our shared expertise with natural things. So just kind of constant flow of observations about like, oh, a goat root plant. Did you know you can make those into a paste? You probably knew that already. And just, it's slow. It's not. It doesn't require any feedback from you.
The path.
And Raven and Yona, just very briefly, where are you as they're having this conversation up ahead of you, or near you, or?
I'm behind where Steeder is. I know him well enough to know that he does tend to prattle on, so I'm not close enough that I'm far enough away that I'm not engaged in this conversation, but I also like know that he knows his business where the swamp is concerned, so I'm close enough that if danger does arise, that he's likely to be, because I don't know Ellis, he's likely to be the I assume he'll be the first person to spot it.
And I think Raven is probably close to the conversation. Maybe even, probably like interjecting. Raven likes to talk, so chit chatty.
Steeder, you, out of the corner of your eye, see something covered in the bush. And clearly, pretty much to you at the same time, Ellis, you see what looks like somebody in a heavy robe with a hood pulled up over it, kind of coming down, kind of switchbacking over some higher, steeper, densely covered dunes, kind of coming down to meet the path you're on. And Steeder, you see something that looks like a broken shield in the brush.
And the figure is off in a different direction, right?
The figure is ahead of you. You're in, Ellis seems to have made eye contact on that. The thing you're seeing that looks like a broken shield in the brush seems to be, off to the right. And it's much closer to you, but not something that anybody else has paid much attention to. All of you can see that figure sort of coming down, and it's carrying a sack, a very, very large sack over one shoulder. And the sack is sort of twitching.
So I just abandoned my sentence about how, if you can't get hold of Arrowbane, you can always, use Frogfoot. It just stops midway, and I just walk off to one side towards the shield as if it's the only thing in the world.
Hamza sits on the ground with a very broad smile at you, Rita, and says, "Would you do me the good honor of teaching me to be useful?"
To be useful, you ask?
You said you'd give me moral instruction, and I've long wanted to be useful.
Well, there's two things that you should learn first. The first is you cannot lie to me right now. So, is there anything about his appearances that is trying to fool the senses? Because guess what?
No. It's certainly a favorable and handsome form, but it's his real self.
Okay. Has he told me any lie
But he is certainly much older than he appears. It's not necessarily like he's casting an illusion, but he's much, much older than he appears. And he has not told you any lie, though he's definitely not necessarily telling all of the truth. Though it's not a strategic not telling the truth. It's not a carefully picking through the facts to string together something you want to hear necessarily, but he's definitely pitching things to make it appealing to you.
The second thing that you should learn if you wish to have moral instruction from my order, the symbol I wear on my surcoat, it is a wheel on fire. The fire is truth. Therefore, I command you in the name of my order and in the flame of truth to tell me who you really are. I'm going to just roll I am the law right now.
Go ahead and roll it.
7. It's a 6. It's a 6. It's a failure. Freaking fairies.
No.
Freaking fairies.
Oh no.
Unless I can get some help from that damn hawk.
If I could think of a way that would make sense, but I don't know how that would work.
I can't think of any.
And he looks back at you and says, I will tell you the answer to any 5 questions you want me to tell without any lie, as long as you let me travel with you.
Is he lying?
He is not. He is not uttering a single lie.
Why should I want to make such a deal? What is it to me that you travel with me or not, or answer any of my questions?
First, I will tell you that in 5 minutes, your dear friend Steeder should not reach for that shield. Steeder, the shield is actually only half a shield. Well, before we go back to Steeder, the rest of you see a man come down and sort of meet the path with a sack slung over his shoulder. And the sack is twitching, and he sort of slides onto the path, and he's wearing a very nice robe, though it's tattered by kind of moving through the brush and the sand and the water. And he has the hood pulled up over his head. And much as, you know, in the copse of trees last night, as he's come down, you've sort of gotten this waft of intense pine pitch coming off whatever direction he was coming from. What do the 3 of you do? I know what Steeder is up to, but
Has he seen us yet? Or
he has not made any sign that he's seen you.
I'm gonna like get off the path, and I'm trying to like sneak around and get a better look at him.
Roll turn to defy danger with dexterity there, right? I think that sounds about right.
Sounds good.
Sounds close.
7.
7. You can follow him for a time quietly, but at a distance, or you can dart forward and get a look at him, but he's going to probably see you. But you will also get a good look at him.
I'll take the second one.
So you dash up, and you have to splash through several small like puddles and inlets. And you look at him, and he hears you coming up, and he turns around to look at you. And his eyes are shut. They actually have big, old, weird-looking coins with some enameling on them, sort of over them.
That's creepy.
And he looks straight at you. And his head cocks to the side, and he looks at you and like, "What are you gawking at?" And he lowers the sack to the ground, and it's definitely got something that's moving and alive in it. Is there something you want to buy?
What you got there in that sack?
Steeder. The interesting thing of the shield is that it's broken in exactly the same place the banner you had was broken. Except opposite. like it's clearly the same pattern. It's a continuation. You can see where the claw extends down from the creature, except it's like covered in like moss and dirt.
So on this version, I can see what the claw belongs to, but not the
If you
serpent.
can wipe this off, I mean, you've not got it in your hands yet. You're just seeing it. If you can wipe it off, pull it out from the brush.
Oh well, to quote Catherine, what bad thing could happen? I'm just going to grab hold of it with both hands.
You grab hold of it with both hands, and then you realize that what you're holding on to are two suckered tentacles in the brush.
Oh God, I can't bear it.
And they start to wrap around your hands. What are you doing? And also, you know, what are you yelling?
Well, we didn't see any of the thing that happened with the bear, right? That was just something that.
No, that was only Brita.
So in this case, is this a known hazard of the swamp? Is this a creature that I've encountered before?
Do you want to spout some lore about that?
I sure do. Okay, I got a 7.
You got a 7? You know that people in the swamp have talked about almost finding the thing they most cared about. And then many of those people have died of strange illnesses only days or weeks later after telling you that story. The thing they always cared about most got away. Sometimes it was the face of a loved one in the water. Sometimes it was the ruins that they'd been looking for. Sometimes it was a beautiful plant or flower that they'd been hunting for. But it always got away. And then in many cases, there was some strange illness days later, and they just died.
Okay, so minus the missing ingredient of the tentacles, I know enough to put together that there's some kind of siren-like phenomena out in the slough where people think they see something really attractive and then sicken and die afterwards.
Right. How do you try to get away from these tentacles? And what do you say?
Tentacles. Just yanking my hands back. Are they sort of rope-like and strong?
Yeah. Raven and Yona, you both see Steeder struggling in the bush with something and crying out. Steeder, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to pull your hands away? What do you?
Yeah, I think in just a reflexive manner, I'm just trying to use brute strength to pull myself away.
Okay.
I think there's a smarter thing to do, but not having seen the bear and not knowing necessarily about the tentacles, and I think I'm just going to do the first instinctive thing, which is just pull
I
away.
think you would instinctively try to yank your hands back pretty quickly. Does that sound about right?
Absolutely.
Let's roll with dexterity. How did that go?
That did not go. A 6.
A 6. I will say that Yona or
yeah, can I aid?
Yes, you can dive in there. You'll need to roll with dexterity as well.
Yeah, it's not probably my strong suit, but I think I see this happening, and I just yell out like,
"You pull his hand back."
Yeah, Steeder, this was not our arrangement.
You're gonna have to get physically up in there to get him away.
Okay, so am I rolling?
You're gonna roll with
dex,
dexterity.
okay.
Yeah, just roll with dex.
That is not going to be great. Is my dex? Boy, that's only a 5.
Raven, as tentacles wrap around Steeder's hands, and another one wraps around Yona's foot. What do you do?
So tentacles wrapping around. I guess probably the thing that makes sense. I'll try to cast an illusion, with the intent of trying to frighten this thing away. So like, fire's scary. Most things are afraid of fire.
Why don't you roll with charisma?
Yeah, I would love to. It's a 9.
What is the? Is there a partial success specific?
7 to 9. I choose 2 instead of 3.
All right. Why don't you make those choices and tell me what you got?
The illusion makes them believe something specific, being that they're surrounded by fire and in grave danger. And the illusion points them where you want them to go. So maybe there's like a wall of fire of sorts, and the only safe exit is like away from my buddies. It's that. Okay.
I'd like both Yona and Steeder to roll a d6.
Also 2.
That's how much damage you take from the tentacles. And then Yona, as you land on your back, your food falls out of your pack, and the tentacle sort of wraps around it. And as all of a sudden fire springs up, and the creature lets go and retracts into the swamp.
Fire springs up from where the food landed, or where the...
From everywhere around you for just a moment. But
Just
then you
around.
realize, as the fire disappears, that it did not burn. It was not hot. And then both of you see Raven standing near you, and the tentacles are gone.
Raven.
The tentacles are gone and disappeared into the flames, or with the flames. But so is the food from your pack.
Okay. Raven, did you see fire around me just now.
A fire?
Raven, how can they tell you've just been performing magic?
Yeah, I think maybe this is a good point where the Robert facade falls away a little bit. Maybe by doing this magic, like I'm no longer Robert. I'm actually Raven. So that would be a dead giveaway.
So describe how Raven is different than Robert, just very briefly, just a few words.
Yeah, much slimmer, all black in color, you know. No longer like a middle-aged guy with like fancy armor and stuff, but like a thin, wiry, dark-colored person.
Androgynous, sort of.
Yeah.
Okay. Still wearing an official suit, or what are you wearing now?
Oh yeah, I think the clothing doesn't change. So yeah, the clothing's probably a little out of place.
Right, because it's something you stole. It's something you borrowed from the real Robert.
Yeah.
I think I look up at you and give you a very like, television scene, like, so that's what you look like. Because I've always known that you aren't who you say that you are, so it's nice to actually see your real appearance.
So Brita, let's circle back to you.
Well, Hamza, your offer is extremely interesting. However, as we've already established, you cannot in fact lie to me, so your offer to answer questions is somewhat dubious. The second part I must hasten to add is that you have informed me my companions are in danger. Thank you for this. That was very generous of you. And without a word, I turn and sprint back towards the others.
I think what you glance out of the corner of your eye as you leave is Hamza looking like a pouty child.
Oh, God. It's the Squire of Gothos all over again.
And you come back to your companions, standing in the first, I think the one who's most in front is Ellis.
Hello, Ellis. Has anything happened while I was gone?
Ellis is standing there speaking to a man.
What are you talking about? Ellis is speaking to Robert.
No.
No,
Ellis
I'm
is
speaking to this strange man with the
strange
sack.
robe man who has pitch painted all over his skin. His withered skin.
Hello, old man.
His lips, his hands, and he's holding a sack that's twitching. And he asks you, did you want to buy something, or may I go?
Well, that depends. What do you have in that sack?
And what do you need? It might not be the appropriate match.
I'll decide that after I see it.
I don't like to show off wares until after I know you're a serious buyer.
And I have my hand on the hilt of my short sword, which is, like I said, it's more of a machete than a stabbing sword. I'm like, I'd like to see what's in that sack.
I'm gonna have you roll with charisma.
Good. My worst score. That is a 6.
Um, and Rita, this sort of goes in slow motion for you. The rest of you are sort of pulling Steeder out of the brush. And Brita, out of the corner of your eye, you see the brush sort of flare up and then down. And as you turn to see what you thought for a second was a fire, and then what you long suspected was Raven's true form.
What are you talking about? I've been seeing that all along.
Yeah. But you realize it's
Robert
out
is
there.
a very handsome,
Everybody.
skinny man. I don't know what you people are all surprised
Does
about.
anyone actually fold?
What are you talking about, fool? This is Robert. This is what he looks like.
Ellis. You find yourself surrounded by burlap.
Oh, good. There's nothing can go wrong here.
And this is partially with an eye to time. And you feel yourself being hustled along as if you were on somebody's shoulder and bouncing. And you realize you're not alone in the sack that you're in, even though it's completely dark. And you feel someone touch your shoulder and then your face, and then you hear your sister's voice say, "Ellis, is that you?" And then, Rita, you notice the old man and Ellis are no longer standing there. And far, far ahead of you on the path that you'd been scouting out, you could swear you see him moving at an unnaturally fast pace.
This is just the theme of this place, isn't it? This is just how this goes.
I think that's where we're going to cut for this session. And I'm going to stop the broadcast.